Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Rose Tinted Ceilings. We are your hosts, Isabella.
And Maggie, and we'll start off by introducing a little bit about ourselves so you guys can get to know us a little bit. So, hi, my name is Maggie. I'm 15. I live in Canada. And both me and Isabella have prepared a little artifact for a little show and tell moment so you can get to know something we're passionate about, something we're interested in that you'll probably see reoccurring throughout today's episode. So, while our audio listeners will not be able to see the artifacts, we'll try to describe it to the best of our abilities. So what I have here with me is a little Ferrari F1 car keychain that was actually gifted to me by Isabella on my birthday. I think it's super cute, and I guess you'll be hearing me talk a lot about F1 throughout this podcast. So this is your little warning. Isabella, do you want to continue?
Yeah, I also think it's super cute. And I'm Isabella, I'm also 15. I also live in Canada, surprisingly, and I brought this Kirby stuffy. It's very pink and round if you don't know what a Kirby is. And I really like Kirby because it's cute and the video games are really fun.
Well, sounds really great. I have never played the Kirby video game. Anyways, so we're going to start off talking a little bit about our podcast by explaining our name. So as you can see, our name is the Rose Tinted Ceilings podcast. And we can't really get into what we're going to do and what the podcast is about without explaining the name. So the name is, we like, is your microphone okay? Okay, let me read. So the name is us stuffing together two like sayings, one being breaking glass ceilings and one being rose tinted with rose colored glasses. So Isabella, do you want to start by explaining what breaking glass ceilings kind of means?
Yeah, so breaking glass ceilings is kind of like a metaphoric barrier because there's no real legal barrier now for women in the workforce or marginalized groups, but there's still a lot of invisible barriers like prejudice. And like, for example, mat leave, like if you have less experience, you're less able to be hired, but that's really unfair. And this was also coined by a woman named Marilyn Loden, and she was a fill-in for her employer's only female executive, and she talked about that phrase in the Women's Exposition in New York. So that's kind of about the barrier there for women in their careers. Do you want to explain about rose-tinted glasses?
I'd love to. So the actual phrase to see things through a rose-colored lens was a figurative speech that kind of originated around the 1840s. And this originally meant to view things in a overly optimistic way and sometimes a harmful way by viewing the world a little too optimistically. We're not using that saying in this context. We're going to use it in more of us seeing the world through a feminist lens, seeing the world through a female, a marginalized perspective. And that's like a really important concept of our podcast. I want to take it away and talk about how we're combining this.
Yeah, so like Maggie said, it's kind of like we want to break glass ceilings and talk about women who have done this already and talk about what they have done because we can't get anywhere without showing people what people have already succeeded at and kind of bring that awareness to the powerful women and people in marginalized groups who have done amazing things who have been overshadowed in history. So I think that's kind of the idea of what we want to do with this podcast.
And so our general aim is to be able to help break more of these glass ceilings, to help talk about women who have, to help women who are trying to, by viewing these industries, by viewing these issues from a marginalized lens. Because without that, we're not going to be able to break these glass ceilings in a way that actually breaks them and doesn't just like tap them slightly. So that is what we are trying to achieve through the podcast, through, like Isabella said, bringing up examples of women who have. We're hoping to get a few speakers on. We have a great lineup of people we're really hoping to get on to. But to start off today, I think me and Isabella have both prepared some examples of women who have broken the glass ceiling. And we both brought two examples. Both of these examples are related to something that we are both passionate about. So through this, you also see a little bit about what is important to us, and it's going to be a really fun time. So,
yeah, I have done my homework, so I will go first. So my first example, She not only broke through the glass ceiling, she also broke through the ozone layer. Her name is Valentina Tereshkova, and she was the first woman in space. I know,
Okay.
it's a good saying, right?
Okay, sorry, that caught me off guard. I thought you meant like she like you know like the hole in the ozone layer. I thought you meant she caused that. I was like, I don't think that's a great example. That we want to set on our podcast. But continue.
I
Sorry.
mean, that would be pretty cool too, but I don't think that can be done yet. So she went to space in 1963, representing Russia, and she was only 26 years old. And the fun thing is, she did not have any experience as a pilot, but she was accepted into the program because she did 126 parachute jumps. So I thought that was really cool because I could not do that. And
I can also
honestly,
do
like
that.
going to space, that's one of the biggest
What
accomplishments.
year did you say this was in?
This was in 1963.
Imagine how unsafe the parachutes probably were in 1963. I
Take
couldn't
some
do that
bravery.
now, but imagining her doing that then. Okay, glass ceiling broken. Is that all you wanted to say about her?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well, my example now. I did not come up with a catchy hook like that. I instead wrote way more than that, so it's gonna take maybe a bit longer. But
Okay.
my first woman that I'm gonna bring up is Susie Wolf. If you don't know who Susie Wolf is, she is now the managing director at F1 Academy, which is the racing league for females. And she's like a really cool person with a really long racing career and history. I don't think I need to say all that I have written down because I don't think anyone actually cares about the specifics, but we're gonna speed through it. So, Susie Wolf started karting like any other racer in her childhood, and she won the British Woman Karting Racing Driver of the Year award in 1966, 1996, 1997, 1998, and 1999, which is pretty cool. And then in 2000, she was named the top female kart driver in the world, which is kind of a big deal because there's kind of a lot of kart drivers in the world. In 2004, she finished fifth out of everyone in Formula Renault, which is also a pretty cool thing to do. And she was the first woman to race in a Grand Prix weekend in F1 after becoming a Williams development driver in 2014. And she was the first woman to race in a weekend since 1992, which is kind of also a really big deal. And then she also did the German Grand Prix free practice session in 2014, and she only finished two tenths of a second behind her teammate Felipe Massa, which is kind of also a big deal. I keep saying that, but this is a really big deal because you barely get women actually racing alongside men, and then even when you do, they usually haven't managed to get to the success that Susie Wolf has. So she's a really huge person in the racing scene, and she always has been through this very long list. And then in 2018, she became the team principal for a Formula E team. I don't want to pronounce that name in case I mess it up, but she became a team principal for that. And then she ended up leaving the racing scene because she said she wanted to focus on bringing younger women into the scene like she did. So throughout her career of breaking glass ceilings by breaking those expectations, changing people's opinions on female drivers, she has chosen to take that experience and hop onto the F1 Academy team to try to get more young women these opportunities. And then also in 2016, she started a non-profit organization named Dare to Be Different, which also aims to help younger women get into the racing scene. Another cool fact about her is that she is honored as of a member of the Order of the British Empire,
Oh
or
my
MBE.
gosh.
Now, I don't know what that means because I'm not British, but she has MBE next to her name, which seems pretty cool. I think she has to be a pretty cool person to get the word MBE next to her name. She also got recognized by the University of Edinburgh. She got an honorary fellowship for her role as an ambassador for women in sport. So all through all, she has definitely broken the glass ceiling in racing, in Formula One, in just the whole motorsport scene by defying all expectations. And she is still receiving a lot of criticism after she got that F1 Academy managing director title because people are saying, oh, you only got that because you're married to the Mercedes team principal. But I don't
Wow.
think people have realized that her racing career and her racing statistics are much better than Toto Wolff's. She has succeeded him 10 times. So that speaks on how women's accomplishments are always going to end up underappreciated or disregarded. And that is why it's important to remove these invisible glass barriers to allow women to shine through regardless of all of this. That's easy.
Dare to be different. If you're listening, you should partner with us.
You know what? I don't know if they're still around.
Oh, really? Why? What?
I think I read something that's like they combined with F1's Girls on Track initiative. So I don't know if they're still like a different entity or they're like a combined thing. I'm not sure. But
Well,
if any of
that's
those
good though.
organizations
Yeah.
want to come on the podcast, email us.
What a powerful woman.
She is a very
Yeah, her
powerful.
being criticized is insane. Like after that giant list of accomplishments
That's
and
not even
everything
all
she's
of them.
worked for.
I skipped like half of it
Really?
because I didn't want this episode to just be about her accomplishments, but it's a huge list. Go look her up. If you're listening, go look her up on Wikipedia after this episode, though.
We should save it for a F1 woman episode.
We should do an episode on that. Well, do you want to lead us to your next example?
Okay, so
Hopefully with an equally good luck.
okay, I can start with the hook. If she was born today, she would rock it on Shark Tank. All right. So we got the first woman millionaire entrepreneur, and she's
Okay.
also African American and has an
Okay.
amazing movie about her who everybody should watch.
Okay.
And her name is Sarah Breedlove, and her marketing name is Madam C.J. Walker. And she was in live during the mid 1800s to early 1900s. She was born in poverty in an abusive home. She was abused by, I believe, her brother-in-law. So she had a very hard childhood growing up. But she was super brave, and she's an entrepreneur that sells cosmetics and hair products. So the movie is called Self-Made, and that's where I learned about her from. And she was just so amazing because every step of the way she had new challenges. People who are racist against her, people who didn't want her to succeed because of her race and her being a woman in entrepreneurship. And what I also loved was that her husband was incredibly supportive of her business as well. And like that's amazing to see because this podcast isn't just about women supporting women, it's about the people who aren't marginalized as well supporting women as well. So yeah, if she was born today, she would rock it on Shark Tank.
I was wondering where the Shark Tank part was gonna come into that, but
Yeah.
I also think it's so cool that the first woman entrepreneur was also a person of color who is also from another marginalized group. Because again, our podcast, while centered around feminism, we recognize that we cannot have feminism without intersectionality and including all these other races. So your example is really cool. I'm gonna Google her after this, but I have to add that when you said there was an incredible movie made about her, I thought it was gonna be The Wolf of Wall Street.
I actually never watched that movie. I heard it's really, really
I
good.
feel like we should for this podcast, though.
We should. That should be its own episode too. Look at us making up ideas.
When did you say that she was doing her business? Like, what century was this?
1900s. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention too that she would always like partner with young women entrepreneurs too. So she was also helping other women succeed. So I think that's like perfect for what we're talking about.
It is kind of crazy, though, that the first woman entrepreneur ever was only the 1900s. Because I feel like entrepreneurship has been around longer than the 1900s. But
Yeah,
I guess
definitely
it took
there's
that
a
long.
lot of barriers to success for entrepreneurs back then. Female entrepreneurs.
Well, if I can go on to my second example now. She is also an entrepreneur. And I think, this is very close to my heart, and I'm sure it's very close to Isabella's heart too, as she'll soon notice. She doesn't know about this, we didn't tell each other our examples. But I have Cindy Lee. If you don't recognize that name, you will soon, because she is the founder and ex-CEO of TNT, the Asian
Oh my
Super
gosh,
Brokers.
I love TNT.
I knew you were going to say that. But she founded and started, that's the same word. She founded TNT as a Taiwanese woman. She had come to Canada from Taiwan, and she started this massive chain. Now, if you're not from Canada, or if you've just never gone inside of a TNT in Canada, it is a huge franchise, especially among the Asian communities. You have never not stepping foot into a TNT if you live in Canada, because it is just Isabella, do you want to talk about how much you love TNT? I think you can put it
Yeah,
to.
so TNT has really good food and they support Asians. And they're just amazing because oh, I actually did watch this one thing. You know that show Undercover Boss? They
I do,
they
yeah.
showed they showed the daughter of like the executive of TNT, right? And then
Mhm.
she went undercover to like all the TNT locations, or just a few TNT locations, to see how the workers were enjoying their space. And I thought that was so cool because like she actually cares about the people who work under her.
I also think that's really cool. And just to think about the success an Asian immigrant was able to make in like, what was it, 20 years? Because I think TNT opened in 1993. So you think that this has been a massive franchise that's been here for ages, but it really isn't. It's like is the word self-made a word for a company? I don't know, but it's something that she grew on her own, and she has now given the CEO title to her daughter, which is really cute. But they're still a family, not family. They're still very, running the family, and I think she's such a good example of breaking the glass barrier because there's not a lot of other Asian female millionaires I can name off the top of my head.
Yeah, without TNT, I'd go hungry. So I like that example.
Well, now we've also prepared one or two trivia questions. We've prepared some trivia questions for each other, kind of related to the examples we just chose, just to get a little bit more engagement. So, you want to go first with yours?
So mine is not related to the examples I just chose.
Oh, okay.
But it
Never
is
mind, what
related
I
to my
just said.
artifact. I like to bring back my Kirby plushie, which our listeners cannot see. So click on our YouTube channel right now, subscribe, hit the bell. And mine is about the first female video game character. So Maggie has to guess who that is. And because Maggie only plays Valorant, I'll give her a few
Okay.
choices.
I also played Minecraft for a bit. Let's not.
Unfortunately, it's not the female Minecraft character. But here are your four choices. It's Samus, Miss Pac-Man, Pauline, or Princess Peach.
Miss Pac-Man, right?
Yeah, it is Miss
I feel
Pac-Man.
like that was kind of obvious, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, it wasn't obvious to me because Samus came like 2 years later. So, also
Why is it
apparently Miss
Miss
Pac-Man
Pac-Man and
was
not Pac-Woman?
well, apparently Miss Pac-Man was originally a guy. They just like changed it. So maybe Miss Pac-Man's like trans too. I don't really know. But I also came across an article that said Miss Pac-Man and Mr. Pac-Man divorced, and Mr. Pac-Man got with Pac-Mom. So I
Who's
was really
Pac-Mom?
confused. But hey, there's a lot of woman representation in Pac-Man. So Miss Pac-Man and
Oh, but one of
Pac-Woman
them's
are
a home
breaking
wrecker. Is
glass
that good?
ceilings.
Is that good women representation?
You know, that's a good point. But if Mr. Pac-Man and Pac-Woman really love each other, then it's okay.
We just said they left each other.
No, Miss Pac-Man got left, and then Pac-Man got with Pac-Woman.
You know what? I'm not going to question it. You know what? Fun trivia question. I'm glad I got that right. And I'm sure mine's going to be a lot harder. So mine was related to Cindy Lee and her TNT franchise. As I mentioned, she is Asian. And she has an estimated net worth from around $1 million to $3 million, according to Forbes. I don't know how accurate that is. Let's just say 2 million. That's in the middle. So she is a Asian female millionaire, which is super cool. Now there are 59.70. That was not worded correctly. Sorry. In the world population, 59.76% of people are Asian. How many millionaires do you think are Asian?
Oh my gosh.
A, 5%. B, I didn't think of the numbers for this. A, 5%. B, 8%. C, 13%. And D, 15%.
I feel like just like your 2 million, I want to go somewhere in the middle. So let's go B 8%.
It is. It is B, 8%.
Oh my
I don't know how you got
god.
that.
I'm
But
so smart.
if anyone can do math, you can realize that 8% is a lot less than 59.76%. And I think also, I forgot the actual number, it was like 70 something percent of all millionaires are white. So there's a lot of marginalized issues still apparent in the entrepreneur business kind of world, which we're really hoping to address. I don't know how you guessed that.
Yeah, I'm just too good.
Well, those were our little trivia questions. You can expect more of those in the coming episodes. Yeah?
Yeah,
We're
for
gonna do
sure.
more? Well,
I guess that's the end of our episode then. I hope you learned a little bit about our name and who we are. And, we just really want to get our voices out there and get other women on this podcast too. So definitely let us know.
so before you click off, remember to follow our social media. You can find us at Rose Tinted Ceilings on Instagram, Rose Ceilings Pod on Twitter. Our podcast under Spotify is just Rose Tinted Ceilings Podcast. And you can always email us with more questions at rosetintedceilings@gmail.com. You want to talk about our hashtag? Okay, I guess I'm talking about our hashtag.
Oh,
So-
we're doing that? I thought we were not doing that right now.
Oh, it's in the outline, so we're doing that. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to DM us on any of those previously mentioned social media handles. If you want to reach us directly, you can also email us. But if you want to use the hashtag AskRTC, Rose Tinted Ceilings, with some questions, with some opinions, with whatever you want to tell us, we'll come back and talk about it in a future episode. It'll be fun.
Do I stop
Oh.
it? Okay. I'm stopping it.